means that if John Aloisi can score this goal, Australia will be there. Here's Aloisi for a place in the World Cup. He's scored! Australia have done it!
Come on!
John Aloisi, the Confederations Cup hero, has done it in the biggest game of all.
Come on, Australia!
The most famous penalty kick in the history of Australian soccer. And the man joins us in the studio, John Aloisi. John, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming in.
And still puts a smile on his dial.
Puts a smile on everyone's dial.
I jumped out of the chair that night. Don't worry about that, Chrisso.
It was a long time ago now, John, but does it still seem like yesterday hearing that
No,
audio?
it seems like a long time ago. They're actually not bad to listen to in the morning. I might have to have it as my alarm clock in the morning.
It was a special moment.
Yeah, it was. It was a great night. We struggled to get to the World Cup for so long, and to finally get there and be involved in it and to score the winning penalty was something special for me.
Have you ever run as fast?
Probably not.
No one could catch it.
Probably not. And they're a little bit embarrassed about taking off my top, but
Oh, no, you're buffed up all right. You're all right.
Is that a routine thing?
No, it wasn't.
It just happens.
Yeah, it just happens. Look, that night there, where I ran to, it wasn't planned either. I just knew that my family was sitting down there.
Oh, really?
And so I went to celebrate with them, and that's why I ran in that direction.
Fantastic. Well, you're right. A lot has changed since then, and you're now the coach of Melbourne Heart. Tell us about your experience as coach, and was it everything you thought? I mean, what were the major surprises, perhaps, about being a coach?
Look, I knew that there was expect the unexpected when you're a coach, but I didn't realise we were going to sell 5 players in 6 months, and they were probably our best players, our best young players, and it's very hard to replace them so quickly because they're players that in a salary cap or on your lower wage bill, and they're probably the most talented, and to replace them very quickly was hard. So that was a little bit of a surprise for me, but we had to deal with it, and it gave the opportunity for some other young players to come through and blood them, and they'll be better for it next season.
Just on that point, John, obviously you're talking about Curtis Good, Michael Moroney, Aziz Bayic, who else was involved?
Brendan Hamill and Eli Babal was before the season started too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So obviously you're about probably growing the individual so that they get a chance to live their dream. But now that you've experienced it and may have affected your season, is that a change up of philosophy internally?
Look, you can never stop young boys from going, but you have to be ready for it. And we'd never expected, and the board and the club itself never expected to lose so many in one hit.
Short time.
Yeah, you might expect to lose 1 or 2 a season, and you can deal with that. But to lose 5, especially 2 during the season, Michael Moroney as his Bayic, was hard going. So you can't hold young players back because you want them to succeed and to develop, and that's one of our philosophies, that they'll end up going playing overseas and also for the Socceroos, and they've been part of Melbourne Heart, but we know now that we have to prepare for it.
Were the right contingencies in place at that time to cover? Or have you learnt from that experience that you will have the right contingencies in place going forward?
Look, you always think that you can cover and you can get in young players that will do the job for you. But the thing is about what people don't realise, Brendan Hamill, Eli Babal, those sorts of players, Aziz Bayic, it took them a couple of years to get to the level they were at. And so now we've brought through another couple about 4 or 5 young players, Jeremy Walker, David Vrankovic. It's going to take them a good year to get to the level that we want them, and the level that Aziz Bayic and those players were at. So I think we did cover, but it was you're always going to get inconsistencies with those young boys, and I think that's what we learnt this year.
And that's what you got a little bit, isn't it? Because you got some and had some wonderful performances, but on other occasions just didn't quite meet the mark. And also talking, John, about your second halves, you seem to give up games where you're in a really strong winning position, which again comes back to the point you were making about young players coming into the team. Yeah,
look, we did give up quite a few second halves. We're probably the worst in the league at it. I know the stats at the 60 to 90 minute mark we were the worst, and that that's young boys learning the game. I'll go back to the Melbourne victory game here at Etihad when we lost 2-1. We had 4 out of our back 5 that have got about 20 games between them, and they did really well that night. But you know that it's hard for them to play at that level week in, week out. And I think that's where we struggled, and towards the end of the season it caught up on us, and we ended up losing 5 in a row. But we know those young boys will be better for it next season.
Obviously the evolution of the game doesn't stop, and obviously decisions that you make as coach and manager never stop. You've had to make some hard calls.
Yeah, very hard calls. You know, we players that we're letting go. You know, Fred, our captain, has been our captain for 2 years, and he's given us everything. Not only in the games he's played, he plays at the limit. Also training, and that's probably why he's broken down quite often. So we've not renewed his contract, and also
How did he take it?
Look, he understands. We spoke to him yesterday, and he said, "Look, this football. I understand. You know, I didn't have the season that I would have liked. My body wasn't responding to the games or the training, and so he felt bad to not perform as well as he would have liked, and so we had to make a decision, and he understands that."
Are these solely your calls?
I've got the final say, yes, but I sit down with John Didlitzer, our football manager, and also the football staff, the coaches, Hayden Fox, and we'll discuss it, and everyone will give their view. Plus, John Didlitzer will let me know about the budget, which plays a big part, and it's hard to say because all of these players that we're talking about are all our highest paid players, and that's why sometimes it might be a little bit out of your hands, but you have to make a big call and big decision, and some people might like it, some people won't.
What about Simon Colosimo as one of the 4 that you've let go? Do you go back with a reduced contract offer, or do you not even worry about that? Do you make the call that he doesn't fit in for what we're planning for the future?
Yeah, we had to make a decision, and we said that we're going to go in a different direction in the future. And Simon has been here for 3 years, along with Matt Thompson and Clint Bolton. They're foundation players, and I was one of them, so I played with them. So it's never an easy decision to say to a former teammate that you no longer want them at the club, but it's something that we thought that we had to do, and we're heading in a different direction. We'll get in some experienced players to replace them, and build a strong squad for next season.
We've quite often interviewed Clint Bolton. He comes around as a person who really knows the game very well. Would you entertain keeping him on as a coach in some capacity?
We've spoken to Clint briefly about it. That he wants to do his goalkeeping badges first, so he understands what it is like to coach, because there's one thing about having knowledge and then how you can pass it across, and you need to do the badges. But we would love Clint to stay at the club in some capacity. The CEO, Scott Munn, has already said that he would offer him something upstairs, and once Clint's done his badges, then we'll have a good chat with him and see if he would love to stay on in some capacity. We haven't made a decision on that, but Clint has been great for us, and it just showed what type of professional he was when I left him out, and Andrew Redmayne stepped in. The way he worked with him and helped him, and he was as proud to see Redmayne play as well as he did, even if it was him that was on the bench.
I reckon that in itself is an advertisement for a good coach. Just the selfless nature of giving up your own position. You're not territorial, you're seeing the bigger picture. Yeah,
and I agree, and Clint was like that, and it would have been hard for him, because Clint's had a great career, and most of his career he's been the number 1 keeper, so it would have been different for him, but it just shows what type of person he is.
John, we'll get a break out of the way. Stick with us if you wouldn't mind. We'll speak to you more about other issues regarding the Melbourne Heart and indeed the Socceroos. John Aloisi, special guest in the studio. It's 8:15.